predictable. I didn't particularly find it very comfortable with the stance you took, but it is the reality, and we actually have to face the reality. Now, why can't we have more mortgage banks in Nigeria?
Yes, why can't we have more? We used to have 156 mortgage banks in the country.
156?
Yes. As of 2006, according to my research, it reduced to 32. And today, I don't know if we have up to that figure operating. So the question is, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why was it that we used to have 156? Now, you just
this number, these banks now,
yes.
were they privately owned or were they owned by the government?
They were privately owned. You see, when you look at nations that we quickly refer to today, UK, America, they started from where we are now, and they consciously built their nations. The mortgage banks you see today, Halifax and Abbey, that have eventually become big commercial banks, they started as building society. When we started those 156 mortgage institutions in Nigeria, they called them mortgage banks and building societies. But you see the building society as banks, but you look at the society, you don't find the societies. 40 people came together like cooperative, building society. In America, they call it mutual. That we are weak, we can't buy from the market. Let's come together and meet our housing need. In America, in Germany, in UK, that was the way mortgage banks started. They started as people with the same idea that we need a house. Let's come together, put efforts together. Then it becomes institutionalized into what later became the latter day building societies, mortgage banks that today are big commercial banks in UK. They moved on. We are just looking at it from where they got to. We refuse to look at where they started from. And that's why we told government of this country as far back as 2007 that the way out of solving housing problem in Nigeria is going through the way of cooperative housing. Thereby, we came up with what we call choice, cooperative housing incentive scheme. Now, every Nigerian, nearly every Nigerian in all form of trades, in University of Lagos alone, we had 4 cooperative societies. And all of them were aspiring to embark upon house building for their members. So it is this agglomeration of, it's this synergy that can bring about reduction of cost, reduction of housing.
We know that the federal government recently created the mortgage refinancing company.
Yes.
And we still have the Federal Mortgage Bank.
Yes.
Is this a duplication, or does the mortgage refinancing company take over the duties of the Federal Mortgage Bank?
Yeah, it's a duplication. It's a duplication. But he who pays the piper dictates the tune. That money was obtained from World Bank, and they have to do the bid of the person who is releasing the money. Those who are releasing the money have no trust in our existing institution, and they have to give the money to a new institution that they think they can properly structure and monitor their funding. You see, but that should not be. That should not be. Because when you look at the act that established FMBN, when the mortgage institutions was restructured in this country in 1992, that led to National Housing Fund decree, they said clearly that prior to 1992, it was only Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria that was doing anything mortgage in this country. But they now ask them, you go to secondary and register primary institutions that will be doing, then you see the Guardian, you see Halifax, you see all these that came in that time. What they want to do is to refinance. What FNBN was to do from 1992 was to refinance the portfolio of these PMIs, primary mortgage institutions. That was what the Act said in 1992. So their role was changed. FMBN role was changed in 1992, not to be retailer but wholesale marketer, buy from the PMI. Why should you now in 2012, 2013 establish another institution to do what you restructure FMBN to do in 1992? It is not proper.
Radipa wants to add something to this.
Well, I appreciate where the professor is coming from, but I think also that the MRC, Mortgage Finance Corporation, can actually bring a new impetus by creating this new body. It is not to me really whether it should be under Federal Mortgage Bank or Mortgage Finance Corporation or any other name. The most important thing is that there needs to be liquidity in the market. The way the MRC is supposed to work, even if that's the way Federal Mortgage Bank was supposed to work, is basically they will buy the loans that have been originated by the mortgage banks from the mortgage banks. So basically, if a mortgage bank gives out 10 million as a mortgage loan, it sells that to the MRC. MRC gives it back 10 million, which can lend further. So basically, it's supposed to create liquidity in the market.
All right, but then you see the FMBN has actually, given players in the informal sector an opportunity to access estate development loans through the National Housing Fund program that you mentioned. But have they taken advantage of this?
You see, my summary of the whole sector is that there's disconnection.
Disconnection between who?
Between all the sectors. I was in South Africa 2008. If you get to the building materials producers, they tell you in the next 1 year, we are building 2 million houses. Get to the South African Housing Finance Corporation, they tell you in the next 2 years, we are building 2 million houses. The whole nation knew where they were going, and all the subsectors, they fall in. We introduced this when we were in Federal Housing Authority, whereby the informal sector we are talking about were pulled into cooperative. When they were pulled into cooperative, we now help them to package their loan portfolio, their loan, and submitted it to FMBN. FMBN gave them loan at 6%. But I was sad to hear last week that loan that was given to their PMI, because FMBN gave the money to their PMI, we did it for a cooperative in Port Harcourt. It was a civil service cooperative of 50 members, just to test the model. The leader of that cooperative said the loan we secured from FMBN was returned to FMBN because the PMI did not understand it, or they kicked against it. You see, because there is this connection. This one is saying, this is my job. This one is saying, this is my job. We don't come together. And I kept on saying that housing is a system. You have a car, you don't have good battery, you don't have a car. You have a car, you don't have carburetor, you don't have a car. You have a car, you don't have, you say it's the tire that is bad, you don't have a car. Every part of the car must work together before you can have a car. The housing industry is a system. Every member of that system must work efficiently before we can have houses delivered. We must put in place a very robust mortgage program. We must have good skill to build the houses. It's when all these work together that you can have the mortgage. There can never be mortgage when there are no houses in stock. There can never be mortgage because the word mortgage is lien. There is a house that you are using to collateralize loan for a period of 25 years. If anyone gives you loan to go and build, it's a construction loan, it's not mortgage. Mortgage is 20 to 25 years by definition.
And so construction loans also come from the FMBN as well?
Construction loan was a child of necessity that we encourage FMBN to give to real estate developer. When we noticed this, that the PMI that were existing there, they had no business, they were not doing anything. So you see PMI importing cement, went into agriculture with depositors' money because there were no houses for them to advance loan to buy. So we now encourage FMBN that this National Housing Fund that you're just sitting on and PMIs could not work, create a window, and they call it developers loan. Opportunity was open, and they started giving loan to real estate to render member to build houses that are not more than 5 million as at that time. So when developers started building these houses, then there were houses for the mortgage banks to fund at that rate under that scheme. It's a system. It's a system. It's a system.
Well, we're slowly coasting home now, Dipo. Just before we go, we've mentioned that, well, it seems the government is trying and the private sector is also trying its best as well. But this set of people, they're also under the private sector. I'm talking about the employees. How can they play a role in, you know, helping to reduce this deficit? You already mentioned that building societies, you know, have evolved. We still have some of them around, but in an office structure, in an organization, how can the employees also, employers rather, actually help in reducing this deficit?
Yes, it's because we are a lawless country. There's a there's a law in this country. They call it employees housing scheme.
Well, you can't say it's the country then, so let's just say that some Nigerians are lawless.
Some employers of labor.
Okay.
Because we don't really recognize. We are ignorant of existing laws. Because the law in 1977 says, if you are an employer of labor and you have about 50 people in your employment, you must provide houses for them. A law subsists in this country. So a law of that subsists in this country.
You know, we have to also look at the practical point of view. In 1977, I mean, it was a different country in terms of numbers, in terms of earning capacity of the country, in terms of the naira vis-a-vis the dollar. So that was a different country. And I think it was maybe a bit more socialist in outlook, because to tell employers with more than 50 employees to provide housing would mean that employers would just start outsourcing work once they reach number 49, employee number 49. So I think we need to look at the economic situation as it is. Employers can have a role if they have a large workforce to use the size of their employees, and I think some do. Some of the telcos and some of the oil companies have actually developed estates.
No, those are sectors where we know that we have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But I think if we think innovatively, channels too can consider. Yes, it's true. You see, once you have the vision, then the idea now is you're looking for a way to execute it. But once in your mindset it's not going to happen, then it won't happen.
Okay, so just, well, we are fast spent for time, gentlemen, but just looking at the whole situation, yes or no, is there a possibility that some of these challenges that have been highlighted for most of this year, is there a possibility that we'll see them reduced next year? Yes or no?
There's a demand. The private sector would attempt innovatively to meet that demand, and if they are creative enough and have the capacity, then it might be dented.
All right. Thank you so much, Dipo. And thank you so much, Professor Nubi. I've been speaking with this gentleman, Professor Timothy Nubi. He's a professor of estate management, University of Lagos, and Dipo Davis is a publisher of Courses Magazine. And we've been looking at Nigeria's housing sector and how the deficit can be tackled. It's been an interesting conversation, and it continues. Keep sending your questions and comments. And that's the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Harriet Agbing.